So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here and and making me some company about talking about the some solution that we presented in 2007. I'm Jimena Holguin. I'm in charge of Quick Hit Solutions here in Mexico. Not sure if I need to present or you are going to run the presentation.
You will be running your own presentation. You can advance your slides that way easier.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we can see it. It looks great. Thank you.
Perfect. That's great then. Thank you so much. So we are going to talk about the success case that we presented in 2007 and what's the actual status of this same solution that we presented at that time. So that's why we call it from earth to cloud, how we implemented at that time and what are the changes that we implemented to go in to cloud. Any questions, please be my guest to write them on the special section in this Zoom session, and we are glad to answer them at the end of the session. So a brief introduction of who we are at Quick Hit Solutions, and of course, what was the original 2007, related to From Earth, and what are the changes on all this trip from that time to nowadays. So Quick Hit Solutions is a technology company focused on EPM and business intelligence processes. We do have 20 years of experience doing financial planning, forecasting, consolidation, profitability and cost analysis, all this stuff related to financial statements and these kind of processes that are really key to our companies, right? As I told you before, I'm Jimena Holguin, I'm in charge of the company. We are mainly in Mexico City, and we mainly work for LATAM companies, but also we do have some customers in the States, Canada, and also in Europe. So mainly a brief introduction to what we do, EPM solutions related to sales and operations, financial planning and forecasting, profitability and cost, as I said before. But of course, we do some dashboarding and business intelligence related to the metrics that we need to measure, of course, in our companies. Some customer intelligence, this 360 view related to our customers in order to understand better how we can improve our marketing in order to sell more to them. The cloud transformation and all that related stuff to big and small data. See? Some of our customers here around the world, there are some big trades, big brands, some small and very local. If you have any questions, please be my guest. At the end, we can answer about those implementations that we have. So let's focus on what is our main activity right now. This is a very big telecommunications company. It's a Spanish one. It's worldwide. In June 2006, they had a total of 191 million offline services. Right now, they have around 350 million customers around the world, more than 100,000 employees around the world too. So it was huge at that time. It's bigger now, okay? And the main focus when we did that solution in 2007 was to have the planning, so the planning application in order to budget better their solutions to their customers here in Mexico and Central America. That was the focus at that time. So this company, its profile in Mexico, at that time, it was around 7 million customers. Right now it's triple, and the group, the Mexican group, has 15 specific enterprises dedicated to different business lines that that at that time we wanted to have in the planning application, right? So what was the previous status? At 2006, that when we started building this planning application, System 9 application, from the first ones that we implemented here in Mexico, they had at that moment, as I said before, sorry, 15 areas by 5 files, Excel files, of course, and five spreadsheets per file for each of these 15 areas. So the budget package, it was a bunch of Excel files, all of them integrated together, trying not to lose any link between them, trying not to add any new big chart of accounts or a new center or a new cost center or a new region, because any change that you could make to those spreadsheets, you could lose those links between them, right? And they have some interface, manual interface from the ERP and the database. And they had Oracle also at that time, trying to be linked to those files in that package. And they have another layer of Excel files to consolidate that information from those spreadsheets too. So we have two layers of Excel files in different packages, and all the planning process was manual, right? The consolidation itself, any change, it was a nightmare, of course. And also the reports. Whenever you think you have that information in the consolidated spreadsheet, you need to start delivering that information to the rest of the organizations, no? Your directors, your administration councils, the stock market, because it is still a public company here in Mexico and also in Spain. So you need to provide those reports to those stakeholders, but also to those business areas that they are going to use this information to take decisions and so on. No? So you have the executive presentations in PowerPoint linked to your Excel files, and also the corporate reports that you need to send through emails at a time, in order to have that information published properly. So my first question to you guys is, does this sound familiar to you? In this focus from earth to cloud, is something that really changed in the process, that if we don't have a tool to optimize these budgeting processes, usually do as financial persons, as analytic persons, that we need to provide information to anybody, is to use what we do have at that moment, that is Excel files, maybe at that time they were really old versions. I don't remember even if the Excel files do have the 1 million rows that we have right now. But it was a nightmare, and it is a nightmare that you can still face in some of our organizations nowadays with all these tools that we do have. So the process itself, the finances to get the information and to deliver these reports to our stakeholders, it didn't change. Let's see what the process was and what in fact really changed from that time to nowadays. Let's check the process at that time. So Hyperion System 9, the one that we implemented in 2007, was had 3 layers of information levels, let's say. The strategic finance model nowadays is known as strategic modeling, that is for long-term budgets, long-term plans, M&A activities, maybe the treasury management, all that kind of really long-term plans. I'm talking about 10 years, 20 years. At this telco company, they did have some information because of the concessions that they do have with governments, and those contracts have maybe 15 or 20 years long. So that's why we implemented strategic finance at that moment. But also at the operational level, or the financial level, let's say, we wanted to have the workforce planning, also the CapEx investment that we're going to do, the details of projects that we were going to invest, and of course, revenue, marketing campaigns, in this, not the production, but the commercial level, and of course, the capacity on how to cover the demand of our products and our lines at that moment. And I don't know if you remember also, but at that time, we do have as a BI platform, because we were not acquired by Oracle at that time, at that year. It was just that very last year. We do have the BI, the web analyzer, to have some friendly dashboards in order to navigate the information in a web-based interface. So what was the structure behind this application? We have some cubes, specific plan types, similar to what we have right now in the cloud, some related to the business unit management, or the other one related to the expenses, all the stuff, all detailed information related to the expenses, and the payroll, or the workforce cube, with all the detail, all that detailed information that we need to have for our employees. And finally, we have another cube for financial statements, P&L, balance sheet, also cash flow, and internal reports and regulatory reports that we need at that time. We needed to deliver to governments and some regulatory bureaus here in Mexico. So specific dimensions, we are going to analyze them further in next slides, but related to how analyze products, segments, these business lines, channels, completion of the calls, the range of the calls, the technology at that time, for those cell phones in these mobiles applications, but also the analysis for expenses related to projects, type of projects, the regions, and all the payroll analysis that we did now, and also this general dimensions of the standards I mentioned known in cloud right now, like time periods, years, entities, scenarios. Of course, the deal with different versions, the dealing with different versions in planning, the chart of accounts, and of course different currencies and different metrics, in order to measure not only pesos or dollars, but also units, minutes, etc. So general dimensions, and I wanted you to imagine how was this platform at that time, and how differences, or what are the differences that we can make on these general dimensions and the other ones, the customized ones, to the cloud. Okay, at the time we have time periods, month, quarter, year. It was not weekly, it was not daily. The years was starting in 2001 that they opened their operations in Mexico, so they wanted all the historic information in the cubes, the structure of the entities, cost centers, those scenarios, different charts of accounts, depending on the analysis they wanted to do, the versions, and of course, what we were talking about, metrics like prices, amounts, pesos, dollars, euros, and adjustments that it's common that at the very end of the budget cycle, you need to adjust something. And the advantage of have these kind of metrics is that you can track any adjustment, any specific adjustment that you need to do. So the audit trail, any change is going to be really fast on verifying the origin of those total values. And that is similar to the cloud. Nothing changed in the process itself on how to implement this kind of ideas, this kind of requirements. The specific dimensions for the business units cubes, products, segments, business lines, the ones that we wanted to analyze and how to improve them, how to make more revenue with through these business lines. Channels, completion of the calls, the range, the technology related to that. That was really funny because it did change a lot. It gets obsolete really quickly. It's unbelievable how this dimension changed. Of course, the origin and destiny of the calls and the consumer type of the service that we are selling. Specific dimensions for the expenses related to projects and the project types for analyzing them better on how to invest, on what project to invest, right? And also the information related to workforce, the payroll, the employee type, civil status, gender, areas, etc. Some benefits that you can add to them in and or not, or get rid of them, and then you can check how it can impact your P&L concept about salaries and the other stuff related to workforce. So we talked about a little bit how we implemented this at that time, the structure, generally speaking, the long-term plan and strategic finance, all of these specific modules, requirements of this customer in particular, and also how to analyze the information using SVN analyzer at that moment. It didn't change that much on the vision itself of how you implement this kind of solutions. The architecture, generally speaking, is similar in the cloud. We're talking now from Earth to cloud. We do have strategic modeling for the long-term plan. We do have these pre-built models, but also if you need to customize that, we do have another 7 cubes to customize anything of those requirements in this case of this telecommunication company. But it's simple, it's simpler right now to have those dashboardings and KPIs related to that application that you have in the cloud, that in 2007 that you needed some specific servers dedicated to maybe the visualization part or the database part or the web layer, right? Right now you just get rid of those ideas, just focus on what are your requirements, what your pains are, and then you can just put that on the cloud. I think the requirements are similar, the pains are similar, but it's quite more simple right now to solve them. Let's talk about that in a little bit also. So from Earth to cloud, in summary of what we're just talking about, is that we do have in the cloud those models that we implemented 13 years ago, very customized, and we with a lot of calculation scripts and business rules, very customized to these customers. That right now it's quite simple because you just select what the function that is the one that you want to implement in your model. Right? You have pre-built models for financials, for workforce, for capex, and also for projects right now in the EPBCS. solution. And also, if something of that is not working properly for you, or if it doesn't fix you at all or in part, you of course can have your implementation similar to what we did with this telco company long time ago, and in specific plan types for you. And we always have that customized module, like doing your own calculation scripts, your own business rules. And have some pre-built predictive analytics in the cloud that at that time, if you wanted to do that, you could. Of course you could, but it required a lot of infrastructure sometimes. And not only the customization of the calculation script, but also I remember the power of those machines. And right now it's unbelievable now how you can do it in the cloud and you just forget about them at all. No, also tuning, it's quite simple right now, related to the nights that we spent at that time trying to tune those cubes, of course. No? Well, that's simple from earth to cloud. Generally speaking, the financial planning that we implemented at that project general goals were, of course, information integrity, improved processes related to planning and budget, to have more time for better analysis. At that time, we do have this information enabled through the web, of course, but it's not that simple like right now. You can have it here, right? At that moment, it was very difficult if you wanted to have it on your computer or in your laptop, or if the browser it looked completely different. Right now, it's those problems are there are some similars to them, but they're not that huge that you couldn't see the information at all, sometimes depending on the browser. And the what if scenarios, if you can see, the goals are similar nowadays to those days, but the solution is more simple now. It was a success case. So I don't mean it was bad at all. Of course it wasn't. But now it's simple. Now it's really simple. And the same big, huge application, we can do it easier right now. Sometimes I say that you are not going to need that specialized consultants in order to do this, because it's very user-friendly. Functional goals, to have your plan automatically aligned to your strategic plan, right? Your targets, if you move a target, if you move with these pandemic scenarios, if you move an assumption, how all your budgeting process, also your strategic plans are going to be impacted. And vice versa. This flexibility to evaluate those different scenarios, those predictive models that we were talking about. At that time you could do it, but it was quite a big effort. And right now it's just some clicks on the cloud. And well, the actual management, of course, financial statements like balance sheet, P&L, the cash flow, some specific KPI metrics for telco industries, rules changes, this skill to adapt quickly to those changes, to have more time, what I said before, to analyze the information and to have consistent financial reports. And of course, the technical goals at that time were very important. Right now, I think minimized, because they are being covered by Oracle directly in the cloud. So accomplished to technical standards, they are made right now and handle huge quantity of dimensions. It's complicated right now. I couldn't lie on that, but you have more power on the cloud side. That if you want to buy it alone right now, it's going to be really expensive. The access to the information. I'm at home right now. If you see any noise, extra noise, like my dog barking or something like that, because of the pandemic, for example, it's quite simple to enter to the application. At the time, you needed a VPN, a strong, you need a firewall, lots of strong security related to your own machine, but also related to the server machine. And well, the other goal that we were looking for, it was a centralized database, and of course the information that was online maintained to, so if you change any data, everything's going to be changed and everybody is going to see the same information at the same time. All the interface is automated, and of course the information integrated between human resources, that strategic finance, and also the financial planning itself, right? And of course security configured by users and groups. That is something that we keep anyways in the cloud. So the architecture, if you see, was focused on enterprise planning with these 3 layers that we were talking about. The information came at the time from different data sources, and of course the data warehouse that they have. And the destination are dashboardings in the, at the time, what's interactive dashboardings? Sure, I forgot that one. The financial reports you have right now in the cloud, and reporting related to your Excel files or any other tool that you can have and connect easily. It was easier at that, it was easy at that time. It's easier right now with the cloud too, because of the connections and all the adapters that you have. So this was the context diagram for the application design. All those processes related to budgeting, reports to the corporate in Spain, the marketing and the interconnection costs that we have as a telecommunication company, all the information related to the workflow and the approvals of the budgeting processes, the project costings. Metaphor was the human resources systems in order to have the detailed information and also the budgeting information inside the Metaphor system too. And all the historic information for each of these business lines loaded into the system. Some of the pictures of that application in System 9 2007 years time period, it was really cool, right? I think I because of the stuff that I do right now, I didn't remember how it used to look like, right? And it wasn't that ugly at all. It was really easy to use. I remember when we were preparing these slides, the images of that time. It was a really good tool, System 9, I think. Some of the other definitions in those dimensions that we were talking about. Entities, consumption brain, the channel termination, all the analysis for all these cubes. And in the cloud, it's really similar how you can see this information to them. This was very visual at that time, and it is continually it remains visual, very visual. So it's something that we didn't lose, let's say, in the changes from Hyperion to the Oracle Cloud path. The attribute dimensions at that time for those employees, we can have these ones on the cloud too. So it's not a problem at all to analyze that kind of detailed information related to our payroll, where the projects, the regions, the business areas, some of the interrelationships, the relations that are between the accounting accounts, with the Oracle accounting, the chart of accounts, for those financial statements, the local information that we have for cash flow and budgeting, and also the information related to the corporation. And this slide, I think it was something that we wanted to include because it shows us how was the evolution maybe from Oracle Hyperion to the cloud that we have right now in Oracle. And it was leader at that time with some competitors, and it's still leader by Gartner in this year. No, this is May 2020, and it's still very well, it's a leader, right? The other competitors were somehow evolutioning, but not that fast, with not that big vision, and of course they don't have S-rays. No? That's I think that's the it was disruptive in the 90s, that all the concept in S-rays, but also I think Oracle added some extra value to improve it, and also not to lose all the key values that S-rays provided at that time, and is still providing right now with all that interface, beautiful interface that we have. And let me advance. Just in summary, I think, just to let you, if you have any questions, just to let some time to answer those questions. And from Earth to Cloud wanted to summarize an application that was a success case in 2007 and how it is right now implemented in the cloud, and why it's more simple, or why it is easier to implement, and what are the experiences that, or the savings that we can have moving some big application on premise to the cloud. That's something that you can analyze in every customer and and it depends on your own requirements, of course, right? So generally speaking, the main differences between that Earth, the on-premise implementation, and now with the cloud is that we have some extra components in the APM solution that we don't have on premise. But also there are some standard features that you can that you can use in order to improve your actual processes. Let's say a huge knowledge base that we can explode related to all those years of having issues, of having bugs, of having different problems that needed help, and that intelligence, that knowledge was incorporated in the cloud. And I think that's something that we can explode in our cloud solutions, right? On premise anyway is going to support you, of course. Oracle, I understand, is going to support on premise EPM until 2030. So if you don't amortize your investment in 10 years, believe me, you are not a good administrator then, no? So I think that the business case is not there. It's more related to what your requirements are, what your needs are, what's your vision related to the planning and your budgets it's themselves, and how you want to grow your solution in the future, right? Let's say the development to the some dashboards that you can do in cloud, and on premise you need maybe another extra BI tool in order to have beautiful or nice reports and something like that. Also in the cloud you can use the pre-built planning modules in order to have good standards or best practices incorporated in your process itself. No, it depends on how you want it. It depends on your business case, as I always say. The automatic upgrades and new features, of course, this is on-premises. Sometimes it's a nightmare because you need not only to coordinate a plan in different areas in order to patch your servers, to patch your own operating systems, but also the computers of the users that needs to be patched too. And that's something that it's really simpler in the cloud. You forget about that. You receive an email, you receive a beautiful email saying that it's going to be a patch that day, and the patch is going to say what the new features are, what's going to be changed, etc. Usually you go to your test environment in order to check that everything is working fine with the new features in your application. If something happens, in that case, you can open a ticket with the Oracle support, and you can stop that app. So it's quite simple, the way that you deal with these planning applications in the cloud, related or compared to on-premise. So I think the IT the IT load, no? the IT work in this stuff related to the on-premise and the cloud, it's more simple, because the main activities, I always say, the main activities that IT guys should have is to have the operating systems up and running 24/7. Sometimes they are not budgeting processes because it's not something related to the core of the business. It's important for us financial people and administrators, because it's our goals, no? It's the direction of the company. It marks the speed of growth, how we move, the agility of the company, but it's not the core. If the core is not working, there is no company, as I always say. So the IT guys should be focused mainly in those core activities. So those extra activities can be kept in the cloud perfectly. And the integration with Microsoft Office, you can have it on cloud. We did have at that time in the earth of 2007, and also, of course, you can have it right now in the cloud. But also there is a point, the overall TCO benefits, that I would say it's not that simple, like the cloud is better, or you can have savings in cloud but not on premise. That's something that we should analyze in each case, no? That we should do this business case for each requirement in the companies, in our customers, in order to check if it's really there is some benefit on the total cost of ownership of having clouds or on-premise. That's a business case for each customer, for each. Generally speaking, of course, because of all this conversation that we are having about these other points or items, of course, generally speaking, it's cheaper sometimes. Talking about the total cost of ownerships in 5 years term, it's quite the investment. It's the return of investment is better. So, well, I think I talked a lot. The problem with the Zoom meetings is that you can't see the other person's faces, or if they have a question or something like that. So this is the moment. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please, we are here we will answer them.